Hi, Shardene. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I needed to get you on because, as I said to you just before, like every time I hear you talk, I just get excited for life. And I just feel like you are one of the biggest motivational factors and most optimistic people I've ever come across.
Oh, that's so nice.
Well, I remember when I met you, we were at a networking event and you had this bright pink suit on and you just walked as if you were like this absolute celeb that just radiated energy. I'm like, I have to get to know this person.
That's so funny.
And I looked at your website before and I love how authentically you are. It just says how you teach people how not to shit your pants. Can you talk more about that, please?
Yeah, so I am a professionally trained actress, and also I had like 3 years of drama school training. So I've got a degree in acting, and it was like a hardcore degree. We were in classes like 39 hours a week, and then had stuff on top of that. So it wasn't like a lot of people think, oh, it'd be a DOS, it'd be dead easy, it's performing arts. It was actually really intense. And part of that training, you learn all about stuff like how to use your voice and how to be confident on stage and all this stuff. And I was actually really good at being another character, being a different person. But when it came to me, I literally shit my pants. I'm not even joking. So I would go to an audition.
Like literally.
I literally like may as well have. So I would go to an audition, and really a casting director wants to be confident in you as a person that you're going to show up and do a job. But I didn't know who I was, and I was such a people pleaser, and I was so scared of being judged that I just was I just couldn't be myself, and I let so many opportunities pass me by because I just felt like, oh my God, I'm gonna shit my pants. Like, I'm too scared to do this. So what happened was, the origin story, should we say, I had my son about a year or so after I left drama school, and I started to have really inflamed wrists. I couldn't pick him up, it was really painful. And I was like, I put on 5 stone, I couldn't lose the weight. I thought I'd breastfeed the weight off. That didn't happen. I put more weight on. And I'd always been a yo-yo dieter for like a decade, on a diet, off a diet, horrendous body image, had no self-esteem, put all of my self-worth in what the scale said my weight was. If I was over a certain weight, I'd be like, oh my God, I can't even go out Saturday night. My whole life revolved around what I looked like, what weight I was, how fat I was. Because that's all we were bombarded with, weren't we, in the noughties? That was it. That was the media. I mean, I'm probably still bad now. I don't really consume it. But what happened was, when I had my son, so I was like, right, I'm finally not on a diet for the first time in a decade. I put on 5 stone on in weight, had him, was really not well at all. My wrists were horrendous. I had mental brain fog. Every morning I'd wake up and be like, I just want to go back to sleep. And all day I just thought, I want to go back to bed. Like, my whole life was about just lying down with my eyes closed. So I may as well have been dead, really. But the doctors couldn't help me. It was the first time in my life that medical intervention was not helping at all, because I put all my faith in that. I was to think, forget ill, go doctors. That was it. But what happened was, I went to pick up a repeat prescription for anti-inflammatories for my wrists. And I honestly believe it was divine intervention, because as I walked to the pharmacy to get this prescription, I opened a newspaper on a page where a GP was saying, do not take anti-inflammatories long term. They will cause you problems with your stomach. Instead, don't eat processed food, don't eat sugar. And I was like, wow, those are my main food groups. Why has no one told me that causes inflammation? So I didn't get the prescription. I went home and started researching food. And from that day, I started eating completely different, like whole foods. I remember cutting out processed food pretty much overnight. I now eat like a whole food plant-based diet. But that led to this mental fog lifting that I think I'd had for a really long time, but didn't realise, because you get used to it, don't you? If you live with something for a decade or more, you just think that's who you are. So as that lifted, I started to I guess it was my intuition. So like things would happen, like I'd go to a library and I'd be drawn to a book on a shelf, and I started to learn about personal development. I started to learn about how the brain works. I started to learn all of these things that are really important, like how you talk to yourself, what you say to yourself is pretty much what you get in life. And I'd spent the last how many years telling myself I was a big fat pig, that I didn't deserve success if I couldn't lose 5 pounds this week. Like all this stuff, it totally made sense as to why every time I stood up to be myself, I just used to crumble, absolutely crumble. So that's what I teach other people. That's what I want other people to learn, is that for one, first of all, that feeling of shit in your pants is totally normal, because that's just like survival instinct kicking in, because you're going to do something you wouldn't normally do. Mm-hmm. It's like stage fright. It's totally normal and you can totally overcome it. And secondly, I want to teach people, like, we're not here to just sit about and talk shit to yourself. We're here for more than that. We're here for joy and for fun and for excitement. And I just think that I spent so long in this people pleasing hole. I wasn't really living, and it took that like extreme feeling, like really I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired is what happened. But I always find it really interesting now, thinking back, that it was what I put in my body that changed my life. What I ate, what I stopped watching reality TV, I stopped reading Heat magazine, I stopped comparing myself to other people. And that in turn helped me to learn to live this life. I didn't chicken out of things where I just stopped shitting my pants. Does that answer your question? I don't know what your question was.
Oh my God, do you know what? I don't even care what my question was. I could literally just listen to you all day. I had no idea that food changed your life. I don't even think we got to that point whenever we've spoken, but that's amazing. But you're so right. It's not just the food as well, because we consume other things. Like you said, the media, the trashy TV, like all of that, we're consuming it, and it has a massive effect on our health and well-being. So you went from kind of bed bound, you didn't really want to get up, you didn't really enjoy life. How long did it take you to come out of that, from when you started eating well and you started reading these books? What was the process? What happened?
So first of all, I have to say, so I stopped eating the processed food, but I also stopped watching the TV, because I told myself, I've got a newborn baby, I don't have time to cook from scratch. But then when it came to, do I want to be in pain or do I want a pain-free life? Guess what? I found the time. So I went in the kitchen, and instead of watching like Real Housewives of like every state in America, I would make a fresh juice, or I'd make a smoothie, or I'd be making a soup. So within about, I'd say a week, about a week, I started to feel better, because the other thing that I stopped watching and consuming was the news. Because every night I'd watch the news at 10 o'clock and then go to bed, and I couldn't sleep because I was just thinking about all this terrible stuff that was happening in the world. But me lying awake at night, worrying myself to death, wasn't helping these people at all. So I would say, honestly, this is the honest truth, within a week, I remember I was walking to the shop, and I didn't drive at that time when I had my son, so I used to walk to the nearest village, which was like, I think 2 miles away. So I remember walking and just thinking, I can walk forever right now, because I had that much energy. And the previous week I was thinking, this is horrendous, that I've got to walk to the village. So it was 100% within a week. But it's tiny little things that make the difference. So it's the little things of waking up in the morning and thinking, I actually don't feel that tired. Or this is the other thing I used to do. I'd wake up in the morning, and you have that split second in the morning where it's nothing. I don't know if you've experienced this, where you wake up and you're not sure who you are or where you are. Do you know that just nothingness? And the first thought that would come to my head after that nothingness would be, what's wrong? Mm-hmm. What is wrong? What was I worrying about yesterday? Did I have an argument with somebody? Do I think someone's falling out with me? Oh
my God, I so relate to this. I used to have this so much, and I've never spoken to anyone about this, because I've never even really consciously thought about it. Oh my God, there's someone else like me. Go on, continue. What happens? Like my soul sister.
So what I noticed was, instead of waking up and thinking, oh, I'm dragging all my shit with me from the previous day. And not even the previous day, might be the previous month, the previous year, the previous decade. Like, you can bring childhood shit with you and wake up and be like, remember that time in childhood when such and such happened? I stopped doing that, and I started waking up and it was a fresh page. It was opportunity. It was what's going to happen today, because I was discovering so many new ideas that it was just exciting to me. So I was literally reading, one of the first books I ever read was Jack Canfield's Success Principles. And I found that in a library, and I devoured it within like 2 days. And then I found a book called The Untethered Soul. Amazing. I'm sorry to my local library, I still have that copy. I really need to give it back. It's been about 6 years. It's been about 9 years. I'm going to have to buy them a new copy. But I bought many copies since and gifted to people.
Forget about copies though. What are your library fees? Have you not been charged? Are you not charged like 20p a day times 6 years?
Well, to be honest, it's cheaper to buy the book back. They've told me that. They're like, if you just buy a new one, or just, it's fine.
But do you not have to pay the fees?
I've got my own library now, so I'm not.
No, I admired anyone that, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see, but if you're listening to this, Shardene's sitting in front of this magnificently color coordinated bookshelf. I love looking at people's bookshelves. I just kind of want to dive in and see I kind of want to zoom in and see what your books are. But go on, sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, it's all right. Yeah. So the books were really important. But the thing is, I actually want to say, if someone's listening to this and think, I'm not a reader, like I just don't do books, I don't relate to this, it doesn't resonate with me. There are other ways to consume this information as well. Like because I don't just read, I'll have an audio book on the go as well as the actual book that I'm reading. The other thing that I did as well was in the mornings I'd get up, because at this point I didn't know anyone else who was doing what I was doing. I didn't know anyone else who had the same mindset of these people that I was reading about. I hadn't seen that in my actual life. I didn't know anyone who was vegan, like eating a plant-based diet. I didn't know anyone that would get up and make a juice with smoothie. Everyone was still on the cereal and all that stuff. Oh, by the way, Jake, I saw you post the other day breaking people's hearts about cereal. Can't eat a wheat bit.
I know. I've had so many messages, but it's not just like, what can I eat? It's like, well, what cereal can I eat? Because no one wants to break that habit. And I've got to follow this up with something like, okay, this is what we can eat. Because we're one of the West is very, we've just got into this cereal habit. Whereas you go to the East and it's like a proper full-blown meal for breakfast. Oh. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I didn't know anyone. So whilst I was making my juice or whatever, and I would put podcasts on and listen to podcasts. So I had the first friend that I really had, and he has no idea, he was my mate, Rich Roll. I don't know if you've heard of Rich Roll.
Oh my God, have I heard of Rich Roll? I feel like we need to get off this podcast and have a proper chat. This Rich Roll's podcast was what got me into what I'm doing now. So I listened from the very beginning. I went to New York, and I was like, we have to go to this restaurant. I've heard this guy. Do you know John Joseph, who always features on his podcast?
I don't really know him not well, no.
Okay. He's like this, he's basically this, was like a drummer in a band, and he became vegan, and he's like written this book called Meat is for Pussies. And he's always on the podcast. Anyway, I go in, I'm sitting there towards the end of the meal. I'm like, that I recognize this voice. And Rich Roll and John Joseph were walking in, and I waited till they left, and I went out. I was like, I just have to say hi. And then the next week on the podcast, he's got him on, and he's like, oh, that girl that came up to us from England with her mom. I'm like, that's me.
That's so exciting. I'm literally excited for you. I love Rich Roll. So much.
Amazing.
And he introduced me to so many other people as well. Like, that's how I found out about
if you say Sun Life Organic and Khalil Rafati, I'm gonna cry, please. Although if you haven't,
I was actually gonna say Dr. Gregor, he has the website nutritionfacts.org, and he has the book How Not to Die. And I found, because I love the science, I'm a bit of a geek like that, so I want to know everything. Why is it better for me to eat this way? Why should I not be eating that? I want to know. Some people don't care, but I need to know.
Yeah,
that's why no one can argue with me when they try and have like veganism isn't good or plant. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, no, here's some science. Anyway, so Dr. Greg has been amazing for me because I want to know everything, and I just think he's got some great lectures. And he also introduced me to people with the mindset thing as well. Like, I remember there's a guy called Preston Smiles. I think he's a coach actually, but I remember listening to Preston Smiles on Rich Roll, and then I watched a few of his YouTube videos, and these are the little things I call breaking the spell. So when you said, like, how long does it take me to feel better? And I did feel a difference in a week, but it's little things along the way. And this is an example of that will just like stop break. It's like chinks in your armor. It starts breaking you open and the light starts shining out. But this guy, Preston Smiles, I remember I was at home folding laundry, listening to his YouTube video. And at the end of his YouTube video, he signed it off and just said, I love you. But he said it in such a way, like he meant it. He didn't know he was saying it to me. And I just thought, oh my God, I felt more love from this guy that I've never met on a YouTube video than I think I felt in years in my actual life, like even towards myself. It was just like a really break the spell moment where I was just like, I need more love in my life. And that's up to me. That's not on anyone else in my life. Someone could have been offering it me, but I couldn't accept it because of where I was at. And have you heard of the comedian Daniel Slosh?
No, Slosh,
right.
Like as
Slosh,
in
Sloss, I think he spells his name, but okay, he's got a Netflix special called Jigsaw, and I think he's responsible for thousands of divorces after this Netflix special, because it's all about how we're so desperate, like, not to be lonely, to fit into society, to just be who we think we're supposed to be, that we will take anyone and try and make them the jigsaw puzzle piece that fits into our puzzle. And he talks about, if you love yourself 20%, if someone comes along and loves you 30%, you think that's amazing because they love you more than you love yourself. So you have to get yourself to a point where you love yourself 100%, so that anyone that comes into your life, if they love you less than that, then it's not impressive. You're not going to be that interested. And that's what I kind of want. That's how I live my life. I just think if I love myself 100%, it sort of eliminates the hate. Like, I never get into drama now. I think I was always getting into some sort of drama or an argument or falling out. Like, I really can't remember the last time anything really caused me that much stress that I was thinking, oh God, what does so-and-so think of me? Talking about people, like, none of that at all, because I just feel like I'm at a point in my life where I love myself wholeheartedly, like I really do. And so anything less than that, I don't really, it's not that I don't even accept it, it just doesn't register on my radar. It like sort of bounces off me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I just think that's really important, the love in your life. So what were we talking about? Rich roles. So Rich roles got me to this point inadvertently, these little steps, where I just feel like, oh, I'm just so in love. And I don't, it got me to a point where I'd rather have been on my own than with other people that didn't love me at that level, if you know what I mean, because that's when I felt really lonely, when I thought, oh my God, I love myself so much, I respect myself so much, but I'm spending all this time and energy with these other people who don't have that love and respect for me. And I just thought, I've got to walk away from this.
Well, I've got two questions that I feel like I really want to ask you about this. The first is, how do you get yourself from a position, if people are listening and it's just like, I wish I could feel like that, and their self-esteem is actually really low, and if everyone's honest and sort of looks at it, maybe they don't love themselves enough. How do you start loving yourself? And then also what happens when, I guess the next part of this is when you look out and you sort of realize that the people you've been surrounding yourself with aren't actually the people that are gonna grow with you and, you know, be on similar paths. What do you do? You know, when you said you feel lonely, what happens then? How do you deal with that, bridging the gap? Because I can actually really relate to that, but I would love you to shed your light.
So to get to love myself, I was watching a documentary called Not Food. Do you know the documentary Food Matters? Have you seen it?
Yes.
What's the one after it? What's the sequel? I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, I've no idea. Didn't even know there was
Hungry for Change. Hungry for Change. I was watching Hungry for Change.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
And then in there, Louise Hay was mentioned. And I don't know if Louise Hay is in it or someone was just talking about her, but Louise Hay, who, if you don't know who she is, look her up. I love Louise Hay.
Amazing.
She recommends you do this mirror exercise where you look yourself in the eye in the mirror every day and just say, I love you. And in this movie, in this documentary, it said, just try it for 30 days, just see the difference it makes. Well, I was kind of at that point where I just thought, I've literally got nothing to lose. This sounds bonkers, but I'll try it. And straight away I looked in the mirror, looked in my eyes, I was like, I love you. And it was disgusting. I was cringing. I was like, ugh, this is gross. But I persisted. So every morning, every night, look in my eye and go, I love you. And I think by day 7, I actually started to feel something. I was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I love you. Like, it wasn't just like, I'm just doing it for the sake of it. It was like, I actually love you. Like, I would do anything for you. So mirror work is so important. For me personally, it's been huge in my journey. So that was the first thing that I did. And then that starts to infiltrate your day. So even things like, what am I choosing to eat? Am I choosing to have a drink of water? Now, if you have a child or you are looking after someone, like a small child, doesn't necessarily have to be yours, you do everything, don't you, to make sure that they're fed, they're watered, they're comfortable, they have everything you need because you love them. And sometimes you don't do that for yourself because you don't have that same love. So it was little things like that, just thinking, if I truly love myself, what would I choose here? And those little acts of kindness towards myself made that love grow. And the other thing was having respect for myself. So if I said I was going to do something for myself, I made sure that I did it. Because in the past, I was like, do you know what? I haven't got time. I'm just going to go and sit and watch something on TV or whatever. But I'd be like, no, even if I don't really feel like doing this right now, I've already told myself that I'm going to do it. And I know if that was someone else and I said, I'm going to show up for you, I'd show up for them 100%. So why am I not showing up for myself? So it was little things like that, starting to build up that sort of self-respect and self-worth and self-esteem within myself. And then doing things like, I don't think this is the be all and end all of self-love, but actually things that I used to think were really self-indulgent and a once a year type thing. So things like a massage, I started going to get a massage at least once a month. I think that's really important. I know people really dismiss it and like, oh, I don't have the money or I don't have the time, but I just think that little hour on a bed, it just makes all the difference for my mental health. So all of those sort of things I started to do. And I just started, this is really, really, really important. I started following my intuition. I started listening to that little voice inside me that was suggesting little ideas. So little things like, for example, let's go to the library today. So then I'd go to the library and I'd see that book on the shelf, get that book. I started listening to myself. And the thing that was like a really, really big turning point was I'd met this coach called Amanda Brown. And I'd met her at this event she was speaking at, and she really had an impact on me. And then after that, I had no contact with her at all for like a good 6 to 9 months. And one day I was in my kitchen and I got this little message in my mind, just came out of nowhere, when email Amanda Brown. I didn't know why, but I was following my intuition at this point. So I sent her an email. She got back to me and said, listen, I've got a group coaching program starting in a couple of weeks. I don't think you've messaged me by accident. So I signed up after, like, it was such a hard thing for me to start. It was my first ever ever coaching program, first time ever doing anything like this, first time ever investing in myself. And it wasn't even that much money. It was absolute peanuts now that I look back. But at the time, it was such a big thing to be like, I'm investing in myself, because I'd spent so long in in the mindset of, I don't think I deserve money spent on myself. And I don't really feel like I should spend that on me. Like, it's a waste of money. Like, anything that's going to make you feel better, expand your mind, give you some sort of community, it isn't a waste at all. You deserve it. So anyway, I signed up, and it was about 15, 20 women, and we met up once a month. And Amanda's all about living from love and not from a place of fear. And the thing about this group of women was, it was magical, because they would say, like, what are your goals? And I'd say, whatever. And then And for the first time, like this group of women, like more than one person around me would be like, right, so how are we getting there? What are you going to do? How can I help you? And having that support, it just did so much for my self-esteem. It was a massive. So then I had once a month this group of women who I became really close with, really good friends with, cheering me on. I cheered them on. It felt amazing, being connected to different people, really making progress in life. When I went back to my real life, shall we call it, away from them, I just felt deflated, and I just thought, I've got a taste for what I want my life to be now. And so this group actually were great. Amanda's great because she does try and help you bring everyone with you if you can, but you've got to face facts at some point. Some people don't want to come with you. You might grow so much and other people just can't, they're just not coming. And it's got nothing to do with you. It's more to do with them. It's more to do with the fact that they might have to face something that's quite scary to them. They might have hurdles that they feel they can't overcome, and it's just too much for them at that point. Because as much as I'm sitting here saying, oh, you know, it's a life of joy, it's exciting, and it's all of that, and it's amazing. But don't get me wrong, there are points in this journey where you just think, I don't know about this. I'm scared. There's like sometimes dark moments where you just think, I don't know, is it worth it? It is worth it, trust me, but you don't know those points till you get on the journey. So for some people, they don't want to get on the journey. They might have already had a little taste of it. It might not be the right time for them. I got into this because of what I was eating. Some people might get into it because they start exercising, and then that has that momentum effect of, well, I'm going to eat better now. I'm going to change my mindset now. Some people get into it through the mindset stuff, and then they change everything else. You can't make someone come with you. You really can't. And so I think, and depending on who it is in your life, like if it's just a friend, it could just be that you don't see them as much. You could just, I think what I'm trying to say is, it's really important to know who you are, what your values are, what you stand for, what your boundaries are, and start exercising that. And that is a shock for some people. Some people will be like, just be yourself, like, you know, what's this about? And it's, but who's to say that the person you were before was yourself? Like who I was before this was not me at all. It was just who I thought people expected me to be.
Well, that's the thing. What if you've been spending your whole life trying to please other people and in this sort of like acting, and you know what's expected of you, so you say it, and you kind of step away and go, well, who actually am I if I'm not trying to please everybody? How do you figure that out? Where do you start in figuring that out? Is it through reading the books, or is it just like experimenting and going, okay, well, what do I like? Do I like dancing? Well, let me try a dance class. Oh no, okay, I don't like that. Oh yes, I do like that. And just kind of essentially writing a list of who you actually are and your likes and dislikes. Is that how it starts, or is there any other way to actually get to know yourself even better?
I think there's a multitude of ways, and I don't think there's a right way and a wrong way, but I do believe that you know this stuff deep down. So things that you like to do when you were younger, I think those are the things that you like. And sometimes the things that you did when you were younger that you were actually good at, and then as you get older, you think, well, I can't really make money from that, so I'm going to put it back in its box. Or it doesn't really fit in with this group of people that I hang out with, so I'm going to put that back in its box. I think start exploring those things. Anything that brings you joy or brought you joy in the past, start there, because that's when you're going to get into this state of, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like the universe is flowing through you.
It's flow. Like, it's a flow state, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So like, for example, if you liked riding a bicycle when you were younger, get back on a bicycle now, even if it's just like for 20 minutes, half an hour. There's this feeling of, I did it. I got on a bike. I bought a bike when I was like, I think about 29-ish. And I hadn't ridden a bike since I was like 13. I never owned my own mountain bike. I just borrowed someone else's. And I remember I cycled to the park. It was so exhilarating. Oh my God, it was just the best feeling. And I remember getting splashed by a lorry, like I'd been on a lorry, and I just remember screaming like, it was so good. And then I cycled into a road sign, because it was like there was roadworks, and I was so focused on not hitting the legs of it, I didn't notice that there was like a big arrow sticking out. So I was like down, and I literally went bang into the road. So I fell on the floor, like cut my knee, and I just laughed so hard. I just thought, this is what I used to do when I was a child. Got back up, got on my bike, cycled home. But I think it's like, for some people it might be, I don't know, ice skating or playing netball, or I don't know, whatever it was when you were younger. I honestly believe that it's not an accident that you enjoyed those things then. And if you can do it now, go for any way that you can do it, like music. I played the flute when I was younger, and I rarely pick it up now, but when I play with my kids, they've got recorders and we do stuff together. It's great. Like, I absolutely love it. And what I've learned is the more you delve into those gifts, the more gifts you get. So the more you enjoy those things, the more other things become clear. It's like a little path, and the weeds that have grown onto it start to clear, and you can see more things. And that's how you get to know yourself. It's like, what do I actually like? Do I enjoy? Because the state that I was in was that I had my son and I stayed at home, and I didn't actually really go back to work until he was 7 months old, and I started auditioning again for acting jobs. But I mean, I didn't get any acting jobs. It was like really difficult to get those jobs. So I was at home all the time, and cleaning and housekeeping is not what I enjoy at all. Like, I absolutely hated it. So how was I ever going to get to a place of feeling good about myself when every day I get up and just think, this is drudgery? Like, I really despise my life right now. And I think it's that, if you're just, and I'm not saying go out, quit your job, whatever. Like, if you don't want to do that, don't do that. But what if you just added in an hour a week of like that thing that brought you joy? You're going to start doing more stuff that brings you joy.
Yeah. So what did you do when you were when you hated cleaning? What did you do to change those?
I was a cleaner.
I think that's really important, isn't it? Because it's just like, actually, can you let go of some things that you really don't enjoy and focus on being in your creative zone and doing what you do best?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately for me, I did hire a cleaner, but I also was in a relationship with someone who thought it was my job to do that. And so ultimately I left the relationship. I just thought, I just can't. I'm just not here for this. I'm not on this earth to serve someone else by cleaning their house. Like, I'm just not doing it. I don't love it. Some people love cleaning. Do you know, you meet people, they're like absolutely obsessed with cleaning. They're like, I've got 10 bottles of Zophor in the cupboard and this Fabulosa polish, and I just couldn't give a shit. Like, I don't care whatsoever. And I'm just not spending my life doing it. So ultimately I was like, do you know what? This does not align with my values. I cannot be who I was born to be in this relationship. It just wasn't going to happen. And who am I to deprive the world of this? Like, who am I to say? And not in a big-headed way, but I feel like when I speak, and this is the honest truth, when I speak, when I'm at events, even on this podcast, like, stuff comes through me. Like, sometimes I don't even know where it's come from, and I'll say it and I'll be like, did I say that? Because I needed to hear that. And so why would I bury this? Because I think this is one of my gifts, to be able to speak without fear, without care of repercussion or whatever. I just feel like I just say what comes to me. I don't need a script. I don't need you to tell me what questions you're going to ask me beforehand. Like, I would just chat. I feel like that's one of my gifts. So why would I put that in a box and bury it and spend my life scrubbing a sink or whatever, and put laundry away and all that stuff that I absolutely hate and took me hours to do because I despised it? I'm not doing it. And if you are with someone then who feels like you're living your best life doing that and can't see what the problem is, then that's the problem too. So I'm out. I'm tapping out. I'm just not doing it. I'm sorry. I just can't. And I just felt like I was actually going to not physically die, but like metaphorically kill the person that I know I can be. That potential was just going to be cut off if I didn't do something about it. And I couldn't do anything about it. I felt at that time in that relationship, I felt like so stifled. I couldn't do anything about it, that I had to leave. And I think that sometimes you have to recognize that, not even necessarily a romantic relationship, it could be a friendship or a career choice. If you're feeling like this is killing my soul so much that I can't rise above the level that I need to be at, then you're gonna have to cut your losses, I think, and move away. And that's scary, and a lot of people are scared. I was more it gets to a point where you're more scared of what you're going to lose in terms of integrity and who you are than what you're going to lose in terms of my situation is now going to change so drastically. I don't know what it's going to look like. Yeah. But for me, I thought I'm going to take that chance. I'm going to have that leap of faith, because I don't know what's going to happen if I move away from this. But I also am not prepared to risk losing this me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lose myself.
I often talk to my clients about this when it comes to work and stuff, and it's like so clear from someone on the outside that I can see their work is just running them down. And yet the idea of taking that leap of faith and just trusting yourself that things will fall into place for you, it's really scary. It's hard to do, but actually amazing things can happen. And it's like you said, when you start to tap into this flow state, when you start to tap into what brings you joy, it's like the law of attraction, right? More comes back, more comes. I have to give you an example from my own life. I had a coaching session the other day with a friend, and I'm like, I just can't remember what brings me joy. And we started talking, and it was like, I used to love cooking and eating. And I said, since lockdown, I just don't want to cook anymore. Anyway, just talking about it and loving this idea, I thought, right, I used to make these millionaire shortbreads. They were with like date and nut butters and like all these really, I mean, it cost about £100 to make, but that's a whole separate issue. But I made it and I felt really good, and I gave them to friends. The next day, I'm out in Westfield, a shopping centre, and this guy goes, come and spin my wheel. And it was like on this big stand. And I was like, what are we going to win? Okay, what are we going to win? And he's like, you can win some food, like a meal delivery. I was like, all right. So my son's there and he spins the wheel and it lands on win an entire free box. So we win about £100 worth of meals for the week. It's like HelloFresh, like a version, like a healthy version. I say healthy. It actually turned up not to be, but I had a whole week where I was enjoying cooking and more came. And then something happened where I got an email from this, like there was this, dumpling place I really used to love eating at, but I was like, oh, I'm like gluten-free, I'm not really going to do that. I got this email through going, we've got this gluten-free menu and it's the Chinese New Year, so have some free dumplings, come down. I'm like, what? Then I promise you, this is all happening in the space of a week. My husband's like, oh, had this whole thing, like a company lost his watch when he tried to get a new battery. As an apology, we're sending you a restaurant voucher. Like, it was literally just the world was giving me more and more food. And I've had this experience so much before where you get onto that like manifestation, law of attraction vibe, and it just starts going, and it's mad. That's a slight digression, but along the same theme.
No, but it's true, because I mean, law of attraction was massive for me in my journey. Like, I watched The Secret and I was like, oh, I think I remember. Like, I think sometimes you see something and you think, I think I knew that from, like, I don't know, a past life, or it's built in you. It's like, that makes so much sense. So law of attraction has been massive for me. Law of vibration, law of correspondence, like all of the laws.
What's the law of correspondence? I didn't know that one.
I think it's like whatever you do, like you get back. It's like life's a mirror. So like whatever you see is what you are. So it's like, what I think is really important is knowing what you want, not like knowing what you want, but more important than that is the feeling of having what you want. Because sometimes people say, oh, I'd love to have, I don't know, like a certain car or a big house or whatever. And then they're just like, but it's probably never going to happen. But yeah, it won't happen because you feel like it's never going to happen. But if you felt just for today, even if you lived in, I don't know, a small house, but you felt like you lived in a big house, sounds really basic, but it's like that feeling of it, it's going to bring it closer to you. So, all right, I'll give you an example. 2019, August 2019, I found myself homeless, had nowhere to live with my kids. So I moved into my mom's box room in her house, and I really didn't want to go. I was just like, I loved my life. It was 100 miles away from where I was living. I loved where I lived. The kids had a great school. I loved the house, but I had to do it. Like, I had no other option. So I got there. I felt the worst. Like, I just felt in a proper pit, like down in the dumps. And I was like that for about a month. I couldn't get my kids a place in school. There were no school places. I couldn't find any social housing. I couldn't get on the list. And my mum was like, come on now, like, you're going to have to do something. Like, every night I was watching TV in bed to go to sleep. I hadn't done that in years. And then I remember watching RuPaul Drag Race. It's the first time I'd ever seen it. And I was late to the party, but it's the first time I'd ever seen it. And I saw these men like transform into these drag queens. And I was like, I remember who I am. I mean, I'm not a drag queen, but what I mean is I remember that I can be whoever I want to be and no one can stop me. So the next day I started looking for houses, and knowing full well, like, I had no money. I had the kids with me 24/7, had no real potential to make money, to make rent, nothing. Hadn't even like have any benefits or anything. But anyway, I turned up at this house viewing, and I remember dressing the way I dress if I could afford this house. And I walked in, I was like, I can live here. Anyway, there was no referencing. There was no, they basically just handed me the house. And then everything fell into place. Like, the money came in to pay for it. But the best thing about it wasn't just the fact that I got this house. The best thing about it was what came after. I moved in November 2019, and what came the following year? COVID, lockdown.
Oh.
So I was
what came? What happened? What amazing present were you gifted?
But it was a gift, actually, because it meant that for the whole of that lockdown, that first lockdown, I got to see all my family. I lived literally street away from my best friend. My mum and dad were like up the road. They would bring me shopping. I could just see everyone, and I just thought, thank you, universe. What I thought was a complete and utter disaster actually turned into like the best thing that could have ever happened. Because if I lived 100 miles away from my family on my own with the kid, I don't even know how I'd have coped. I don't know what I'd have done. I think the fear would have like overcome me so much. So I feel like I feel like the universe probably just did it to remind me, like, remember what you want. Just stop moaning about what you don't want. It doesn't get you any, it just gets you more of what you don't want. And I think it's quite addictive. I'm not like berating anyone for doing it, because I used to do it all the time, but it gets to a point where it becomes your personality. I don't like my job, and that's my personality now. And when you see your mates are like, oh, how's work? And then you can tell them another story about how it's shit and Jane from HR is a bitch and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And it just becomes part of you. And you know Jody Spencer, Dr. Jody Spencer?
Yes.
So he talks about this.
Like, we need a book club.
I know. So by the time you get to 35, he's like, your personality is formed on your mood. So like, if one day you wake up and you're angry because something's happened, it's like, oh, you're angry today. If a week later you're still angry, it's like, oh yeah, you've been angry for a little while. But if a month or 2 months or a year later you're still angry about that event, that kind of becomes your personality. And people, there's people you come across in life, you just think, oh God, they're a bit angry. And it's often because they're just like hurt from a past event that's happened years ago. It could be like 20 years and you're still angry about that one thing. And now that's your personality. And I think really what I'm trying to say is, don't be that person. Or, I remember being on the train once. I've got, I don't even know what I've got. I've got a postgrad in education, so I did my teacher's training, and so I remember having to go on the train at rush hour to get to uni, and it was awful. Like, I was like being on a train full of zombies. These people just didn't want to be there. Their eyes were barely open. Everyone was just like looking at the phone. But I remember this woman on the train talking to a friend saying, oh yeah, I've been at the company 20 years now, just literally moaning about this workplace. And so the other woman said to her, what are you going to do then? You're going to find somewhere else? And she went, well, no, I retire in 8 years, so I'll just stick it out. 8 years, 8 whole years of her life she's going to waste moaning about this horrendous place she worked in. And that's normal. Like, people say to me, you live in your own world, you. And I'm like, yeah, thank God, because I can't live in a world where people have a miserable life day in, day out for 8 years.
Yeah.
This woman is, I hate my job. That's who she is. And you don't have to be that. So if you're listening to this and you think, oh, that sounds a bit like me, do something about it, like today.
Yeah. Yeah, and it might be scary, but it's that compound effect where you can just do one little thing every single day that's going to move you slightly closer to the life you want, and it will end up happening. You know, like it's that compound effect. Time versus effort. I don't know what the formula is, but you'll move towards the person you want to be. But it's
yeah.
I get really funny when I see people follow me on Instagram for fertility, and their Instagram bio is like infertile, or like chronic health sufferer, or like pain. It's almost like they're hanging on to that. I'm like, how are you going to get pregnant when you have decided that you are infertile? And that is what you are saying. Like, it's just, the two don't go together. So you have to be really careful on what you say about yourself as well, on how you think of yourself.
Yeah. Because it's like, I've heard it said that it's like casting spells, like what you say, it's almost like casting a spell on your life. It's so true. It's like what I said earlier when I used to say to myself, oh, I'm like just fat, or I'm, you know, all that stuff, I'm overweight, blah, 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 I'll never be successful. Well, that came true. Like, there was no success there in my life, really. Like, I got by, and like my life wasn't a horrendous mess, but it was nowhere near what I wanted it to be, nowhere near what truly deep down I knew that it could be. I mean, even now where I'm at, I absolutely love my life, don't get me wrong, but there's so much more for me. I haven't come this far to just stay here. Like, there's no way. But it is about what you tell yourself. Now, if I just said like, yeah, this is it, like I can't see myself living anywhere else, I can't see myself doing much more than this, then that's going to happen. Like, it's what you see yourself doing. So for me, one of the most important things that I do is visualization. It's just daydreaming, whatever you want to call it, but if you can just see yourself as the person you want to be, even if you have no idea at all how you're going to get there, it doesn't matter. Be that delusional person. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Who says the thing? Oh God, where did I hear this? I heard someone say that, you know how sometimes you catastrophize and you imagine worst case scenarios, or you just imagine mediocrity. Who's to say that that's not delusional? Because there's no evidence of it in the here and now. So there's no evidence of the bad stuff, and there's no evidence of this amazing, brilliant stuff that you really would love to happen. So like, we're sold this lie that, like, be realistic, but what is realistic when the mediocre stuff or the bad stuff hasn't happened either? Like,
so true.
Choose your own reality. Like, just feel it. So before I go to sleep every night, this is a Neville Goddard technique, and if you don't know who he is, like, look him up, he's amazing. Neville Goddard says, before you go to sleep, get into bed, and when you're in bed and it's dark and your eyes are closed, you could be literally anywhere. You could be lying in a 5-star hotel in the Bahamas when you've laid down in a bed sit somewhere. Like, your mind doesn't know, because this is the one thing that I learned about the mind that changed everything. Your mind, your brain doesn't know if the event you're imagining is real or not. So your body will react to whatever you're thinking about. So if you're thinking about being in a really like scary situation, your heart will start beating faster. You'll feel, it's like when you watch a horror film, you know, when you watch a horror film, you feel like, oh my God, I think I'm gonna die. You stop breathing and you gross. So your body is reacting as if you are actually like being chased by a maniac with a knife.
Oh,
and like, it's true. Like, that's what stage fright happens, because you think, oh my God, I've got to talk in front of people, I'm so scared, it's gonna go wrong, I'm gonna mess it up, everyone's gonna laugh at me. So your body reacts as if that is happening. So it's called mental rehearsal. There's like scientific studies that have shown, like, athletes who do mental rehearsal of winning a race, the muscles engage in the body that would engage when they're actually running. So it's fact. So if you can prep your mind, and Jody Spencer talks about this all the time as well, doesn't he? He talks about this idea of, if you can get yourself feeling as if you have what you want, so you can lie down in bed and feel like you're somewhere else completely, and you can feel like you've had a completely different day to you've had, and you can feel like, tomorrow I'm going to do this amazing thing. Your body will react as if that's happening, and your brain is going to create little pathways for that thing. Like the same way that when you smoke, every time you have a cigarette, your brain creates a pathway for smoking. Every time you smoke, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, you can do the same thing for like your dream life. And then your mind is so clever. It has something called a reticular activating system, which if you give that thing information, it will look for that thing. So if you think Josie at the school gates is a bitch, then your reticular activating system will ignore anything that shows that she's a bit kind, and will just hone in on all the times that you think, oh God, she was a bit arsey then, or don't really like that. And that's how your mind works. So if you are constantly feeding it like your dream life, it's going to start showing you opportunities to get to that dream life.
Yeah.
So you have to really like be on top of training your brain. And it's fun as well. It's not a chore. It's not about, oh God, I've got to sit down now and think about having this amazing life because that's how I'm going to get it. It's not about that. It's about let's feel the joy of what it is that I feel like I deserve, what I really want. So you could be in the worst situation and feel your way out of it, like physically feel it. And your mind won't know the difference if it's happened or not happened. So I think it's really important for health as well, because I used to constantly think of worst case scenarios, which then triggers like cortisol in the body, doesn't it? And then there's like inflammation, and then it leads to over time ill health, because that's the compound effect. It's all right saying like, oh, there's a bit of cortisol in my body today. Yeah, fine, your body will get rid of it. But if you're constantly all day, every day thinking worst case scenarios, your body's constantly in survival state where you just can't be creative, you can't feel the joy of life, like everything's just, and I feel like as well, for a lot of people the last 2 years, if you're engaging in watching mainstream media and really like buying into this narrative of shit, we're all going to die if we dare step outside our front doors without a mask on or whatever, I feel like that's really gonna it's not, well, how are you ever gonna get to where you want to be? How are you ever going to experience that joy if you're constantly in that tense survival state?
Yeah 100%. I'm with you. So it's about visualizing. We're going to look in the mirror every day and tell each other we can tell each other, tell ourselves we love ourselves. Reading books, listening to podcasts, surrounding yourself with people that are kind of almost like at this higher level, right? And is there anything else that we need to be doing? And juice, like having good juice, good food.
I just think, get some nutrients in your body, because your body will thank you for it. But like, I'm not an expert on that. I'm not a dietitian or anything. I just really am a bit of a geek when it comes to nutrition. But I think the other thing is you might find yourself, like I did, in a position where you don't know anyone in your life who is at that higher level. So I started... that's why I listened to podcasts. I started finding people on YouTube who had the mindset that I wanted, and then listened to them. So sometimes it's not even about being in the same room as people. It's just surrounding yourself. And then eventually those people will come. Like, it's really weird how you end up in the same room as people or next to people. And it's like, oh my gosh, like you get me, I get you. Yeah. But it's so easy to fall out of it. If you just say, if you started today and you might have listened to this podcast and you're like, right, that's it, that's what I want to do, I'm going to do it. And then tomorrow you might do like a bit of I love you in the mirror, or have a little bit of a visualization. But then if you never touch base with any of this again, not me, but like anyone in this field, then you slowly start to forget, because everything else in your life will start to overtake it, and you have those neural pathways for that other stuff. So those strong neural pathways will override the smaller neural pathway that you started to make with this. So I highly recommend just finding anyone and everyone, and then filter through, because someone that I resonate with might not resonate with you, but someone else might be saying the same thing in a different way, and then that clicks. The amount of times I've heard the same thing over and over, and it might be the 10th time that I've heard it from a different person, I go, oh, I've done it, I know it now. So I think it's really important to have like a really wide range of people that you're dipping in and out of. And also I really like, personally, hearing people's stories of overcoming things. Yes. Yeah. It just shows me evidence. Like, I come from a place where there weren't that many stories of people overcoming and, you know, getting to where they really wanted to be. So I've had to really find those stories and like autobiographies and just fill your time with that. So instead of the other stuff that I used to do, like the reading the news, the Heat magazine, all of that, Daily Mail, scrolling and or whatever, I started filling my time with that. And social media, curate your feed so it's just full of stuff like that, like positive stuff.
Yeah. And what do you do when you don't watch TV of an evening, or you don't watch the news or whatever? What are you doing of an evening now?
I do watch TV, not every day, but I'll watch things that I'm really careful with what I watch. So I will watch things that make me feel uplifted. So, like, for example, I thought about this morning. This must be why it came into my head. There's a really great film called I Feel Pretty, the Amy Schumer film. Have you seen it?
No.
So the premise is this girl, she feels like she's ugly. She just feels like she doesn't really fit in. She wants to be beautiful. And she's just begging and praying, please, please let me be beautiful. So she goes to a Soul Cycle class. She falls off the bike and hits her head. And when she wakes up, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm stunning. And she thinks she's beautiful. And because she believes she's beautiful, like drop dead gorgeous model, she starts living like that. So she gets a new job, she finds a new boyfriend, but she looks exactly the same. Like literally nothing has changed. And like you should watch it. It's a great film, all about what you believe is what you get, you know.
Yeah.
So like things like that, I will seek things out like that, like those sort of films or documentaries. So I do watch TV. I'm not going to lie and say that I don't, but I also every day try and think of what I can do for my future self tomorrow. So it could be like preparing breakfast. So when I wake up, I have something ready to eat. Like I've got 2 kids, I've got to get ready for school. So little things like that, I'll just think, right, what can I do for tomorrow? Because there's nothing worse than waking up and thinking, oh my God, I don't know where the uniforms are. I don't know what I'm going to eat. I'll just grab this cereal bar or whatever. Like I don't want to live like that. Other things that I'll do is I'll journal. So I'll write down lots of things about like what I want to happen. I'll write as my future self. I'll write as if.
I love that. I love the future. Was it called scripting?
Scripting, yeah.
Love it.
This is the thing where I believe that I've got an acting degree for this reason, because everything I learned, not everything, but a lot of what I've learned in acting actually really serves me when it comes to this future self stuff, to manifesting, to being the person that you want to be. Like so much feeds into it. It's untrue. So things like that. What else? Meditation. So I like to listen to meditation as well in bed. I just lie down and put one on, like Louise Hay or Jody Spencer. I'll listen to that before I go to sleep. So that's kind of what I fill my time with. And actually, the other thing that I do is I go to the gym. I have a really lovely gym that I go to, and it's got like an outdoor pool, and the people that go are so lovely. So I can go on my own and just like get chatting to people. And we've started playing games in the pool. So we'll do like relay races, or who can hold their breath the longest under the water, just like basically being children. Someone will bring the ball, play volleyball. So I'll do that. If I don't have the kids, if the kids are at their dad's house, I'll do that till like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then come home and go to bed. So stuff like that, I just think, how can I have fun or feel better? Or am I? So I think that's it. So like, am I enjoying myself? Yes. Am I contributing to my future self? Am I don't know, relaxing, taking time for me? I think those are the things, rather than just like before, in the evening, I would put the TV on to switch off from my life, so I didn't have to think about me. I wanted to get involved in the drama that I saw on reality TV or the soaps. I watched every soap going, like back to that. And it's because I didn't want to face up to the shit in my life. Yeah. And that's the honest truth. I just thought I'd rather be involved in their drama than mine and sort mine out.
Yeah. Yeah. This has been the most amazing chat. I feel totally pumped. I'm like, I want to get out. I want to go read all these books again. I'm going to listen to the podcast again. I feel like I want to go have fun and live my life. And every single time I hear you talk, I'm just like, I tap into this energy. You're amazing. This is why usually whenever I interview someone, I've got like a list of questions. I thought I've put down like a couple of words, because I know that I knew that I was just going to get on here and magic was going to come out. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
So where can people find you? Because I guarantee that they're going to be listening to this like, I need more of this woman in my life. Where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Shardene Blake on Instagram. And I have a breakfast show called The Daily Juice. Now, I haven't done it for a while because I've literally just had surgery. So it's been like a good 6 months of not doing it. But it's coming back. So every morning I do this show where I just got sick of mainstream media breakfast shows. It was just so like fear. Who wants to wake up and listen to that?
Yeah.
So I was like, right, I'm going to just do my own. So I make a juice and then I give a pep talk, or I have a guest on and they give a little pep talk, but just something to get you going in the morning to be like, right, we can do this. It's going to be a really good day. So you can check all the past episodes out on my Instagram. I have a YouTube channel, Shardene Blake, as well. If you just like type in Shardene Blake, you'll find me onto like Google, because I don't think there's another Shardene Blake in the world.
Amazing.
I actually don't think there is.
It's a good name, good strong name.
Thanks.
Amazing. Okay, we will find you, and I'll put this in the show notes as well so people can find you. Thank you. And if we have to pick one thing that we can do for our health, our happiness, and just living an amazing life, what would you recommend doing? If you had to pick.
I would start with thinking, am I living from love or am I living from fear? I would honestly, because that's how I just thought, am I making this choice because I'm scared of the repercussions of not making it? Or am I making this choice because it's honestly it's from a place of love? It's from like the best interests of me or whoever's involved. I honestly think you should need to start deciding that. Am I choosing this because I truly love it? Or am I choosing it because I think the people in my life expect me to choose it? And if I don't choose it, I'm scared of what will happen.
Yeah, really powerful. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I feel like we need to get you back once a month. Come back. Thank you so much. See you soon.
Bye.